but that I got the idea from a great teacher of mine. His name was Carlos Castaneda, and he once said, and I wrote a whole book based upon just this one observation. He said, in the universe there is an immeasurable, indescribable force which shamans call intention, and absolutely everything that exists in the entire cosmos is attached to intent by a connecting link. So that, and that was the very first, and that was years ago, I got this idea that intention, like we are all intended here from a source, and that the idea behind the power of intention is to stay connected to the field of energy from which we came, that Castaneda called intention. And that when we do that, when we are connected, when we live in that way, then whatever it is that we would like to attract into our lives has much greater chance of showing up, simply because we're in vibrational harmony, we're in energetic balance, if you will, with the source of all things in the universe. And the source of all things in the universe is a source of creation and creativity and healing and well-being and kindness. And I call these, in the power of intention, the 7 faces of intention. So that when if you came, let's say you were intended from a field of energy that is pure love, that means that in order for you to become a person who is able to intend, you must stay connected to that source and be the pure love that you came from. And it's really about returning to that source. So a connector is someone who's always feeling themselves as connected to source. And I think the primary thing about them is that their number one relationship in their life is not to their husband or to their wife, it's not to their children, it's not to their in-laws, it's not to their grandparents or their boss or the people they work for. Their number one relationship, first and foremost, is always their relationship to God or their relationship to this source. And as long as you keep that in mind, and I've often told people that every conflict that you have with anybody, no matter who it is in the universe, no matter what difficulty you're having, your conflict is not between you and that person, it's between you and God. That is, can you find within yourself the capacity and the ability to go first and be like God, be like the place that you came from, and use that kind of energy in the resolution of your conflict, and it will be resolved almost instantaneously. One of the great teachers that showed up in my life when I was a young man in my 60s was a man named Abraham Maslow. And Maslow talked about the psychology of self-actualization, when he said that there are certain people who live at higher levels of awareness. They just seem to be luckier. They seem to be able to attract what they want for themselves in their life. They're in a state of gratitude, in a state of awe, virtually all the time, wherever they are. They're peaceful people. And he went through and described what these people are like. But he had one sentence, and I used that at the very beginning of this last chapter in The Power of Intention. He said that, and this always caught my eye, and I remember him saying it verbatim. He said, self-actualizing people, these people who live at these very high levels, they must be what they can be. And I've always liked that idea, that quote, that idea that you must be what you can be. So everybody out there listening now, there's hundreds of thousands of you listening someplace around the globe. Ask yourself if you have internally an inner kind of burning desire to be what you know you can be, which means if you can be living in a state of well-being and you're living in a state of constantly being sick, then you're not being what you can be. If you're constantly battling addictions and you know that you came from a place of well-being, then you're not being what you can be. If you are not capable right now of going out and, let's say, if your legs work and all of that, say running a marathon, 25 or 26 miles, do you ask yourself, well, is that something that I have the capacity to do? If the answer to that is yes, I could be in the kind of shape that would allow me to go out and run for 4 hours without stopping. And then you say, are you living that? Which means that if you're not living that, then you're out of balance. And it's getting yourself back into that balance of being, in a state of connection that I'm speaking about here. And that, when you are that way, and your primary relationship is between you and God, you say to yourself, thank you for this body, and thank you for this brain, and thank you for these abilities that I have, and all of this that is something that I live and breathe and enjoy and love. And I am going to be all that I can be in virtually everything in my life. That's what a connector is. And that's how they look at life, and that's what they sound like. And when you're around these people, Summer, they radiate a different kind of an energy. They don't get upset easily. You can't bring them down. You can't get them upset and frustrated because and you can't pick a fight with them and so on. They're living in a different vibration because they're connected to a source that is a source of peace and kindness and love, and they always go there. They're trying to be like God. They're living at God realization. That's what they're doing.